Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're having a fantastic, first full week of December. It's crazy that the end of the year is already upon us, and that point was really driven home to me last week with Ralph when we talked about gift giving ideas, and especially for young kids, and kind of on the still entertaining but educational side. And I'm very happy to see that Ralph has decided for this week to keep that trend going. So one of the last stories that we do is another toy selection for the young ones in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, that's just one of the stories. We have a number of stories here where our science and tech trends correspondent joins us to, hopefully uplift your Friday. But before we get into that, everyone, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, reviews, giveaways, contests, and show notes is, of course, a huge one. And ladies and gentlemen, everything that we do here at Computer America, our website is the best place for that. So with that being said, once again, I hope that you are having a great week and we can go ahead and send it out the right way. With every Friday, we have Ralph Bond, once again, our science and tech trends correspondent, as well as the tech insider for the Mark Mason Show over in KEX, Portland, Oregon. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Bond. Ralph, welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be back. And like you said, in addition to the usual bag of science and tech news, we'll end with another tech toy gift recommendation for the holidays, because I had so much fun doing that last week, and I think you did too. And I had a great response from our KEX audience on that topic. So I thought, hey, let's do some more.
No, absolutely. It's, it's kind of weird. Like, we have Google, we have so many tools at our disposal to find information, but of course, sifting through that is super hard. So I'm very appreciative to all the different publications out there, and of course yourself as well, for kind of picking up and doing the dirty work. Because go on Amazon and you'll get an easy 150,000 recommendations if you hit toys. It's hard.
Yes, it sure is.
So, Ralph, why don't you go ahead and introduce the segment and tell the nice folks who may be new here what it is that we try to do on our segment here.
You bet. And if you're new to the show, welcome. It's just great to have you. And like Ben said, what Ben and I do every Friday is leave you feeling good. There's lots of news outlets that are going to leave you feeling terrible, but we're going to make you feel great. And it's all because of science and technology advancements that give us hope for the future. So again, I'm an aggregator of science and tech news features that I find by monitoring a host of online news outlets. I look for important stories that don't usually capture mainstream press attention. And sometimes they can be kind of weird and quirky, but they're always kind of fun and uplifting. And I'm always on the lookout for news that gives a glimpse into where we're headed in robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, space research, physics, you name it, all across the board. And what I do with each news item, and I do it in collaboration with Ben here, is present the essential points and in a digestible form. So I don't write this material. It's not original content. I'm an aggregator. I cherry pick stories and I distill them into the highlights and key points. And I stress that you need to come out and get the show notes for today's episode, because we'll have links and pictures and all of this good information if you want to dive deeper into the stories. That's the way to do it. And there's a lot of science behind these things. Again, we're just going to give you the Reader's Digest high points, okay? So come on out, get those show notes, and away we go.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think a great place to start, as always, is story number one. And and this one touches on a couple stories we've been doing in the past couple of weeks, but an ever-growing sense of urgency. There's demonstrations happening all over the world. There's governments that are, kind of trying to scramble to tackle, luckily, Ralph, you've been on the show for as long to see that, environmental science has really come to the foreground. You know, it's a major issue, not just in politics, but in everyday life. Story number one really exemplifies that in the way that some very smart people are trying to think about how to address these problems.
Yeah. And in fact, what Ben's alluding to is our past stories over the many weeks. Gosh, this year especially, a lot of interest, a lot of activity in capturing carbon dioxide from the air and either storing it underground or processing it or making other products with it and so on and so forth. So there's this big giant push in the technology community to say, well, how can we help fight global warming by capturing CO2, either doing something with it or burying it or getting it out of the picture, right? So we've had so many stories. This one fits right in here, and it's kind of fun. The headline is Scientists Propose Using Plankton to help capture CO2 from the atmosphere. And this comes from a wonderful outfit we've covered a couple times before this year, and I'm becoming more and more familiar with these guys, and I encourage everyone to start getting to know this bunch. I'm referring to the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. Again, Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. The more I learn about these guys, Ben, and I've really gotten to know them just this past year, they're kind of, sort of, I don't want to overblow it, but they're kind of sort of like an MIT of the Northwest, because the range of the things they look at, battery technology, this and that, all across the board, including this story, I'm really super impressed. So get to know these guys, folks. They're really great. So the scientists at the lab, which is in Richland, Washington, recently proposed using plankton in the Earth's oceans to speed up the capture of carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. And by the way, before we go on, here's a little quick tutorial on plankton, because it was really funny. I was talking to my daughter and she said, well, I thought plankton were all animals. There's two forms of plankton. Animal and plant. And frankly, that was a little bit of a revelation to me too. I never really thought about plankton a lot, to be honest with you, but I kind of would have been like my daughter, thinking they were little animals. Well, here you go. There are two main types of plankton. Phytoplankton, which is the star of this story, which are plants, and zooplankton, which are animals. And zooplankton and other small marine creatures eat phytoplankton and then become food for fish, crustaceans, and other larger species in the food chain, right? And you can learn more about that. I've got a link in the show notes for that as well.
So the animal zooplankton eats the phytoplankton. So both plankton, but animal and plant. I gotcha.
Yeah, isn't that weird? And if you look at the etymology of the origins of the word phytoplankton, it's Greek, and it has to do with wanderer or something like that. You have to Google that real quick.
Phyto might be light,
Maybe, but I know one of the word components of there is a wanderer, someone that wanders. So the idea is that biologists said these creatures just sort of float around, right? So they wander about. Anyway, back to the story. So in specific, the idea is to feed phytoplankton, which are microscopic plants that are a key part of an ocean's ecosystem, with iron-rich fertilizer nanoparticles, so very, very tiny particles, to greatly accelerate growth and, as a result, carbon dioxide absorption. So in nature, nutrients from the land reach oceans through rivers and blowing dust to fertilize plankton in our oceans. So that's the normal, natural way that plankton get their fertilization, so to speak. The team says that by adding specific combinations of carefully engineered materials, that you could effectively fertilize the oceans, encouraging phytoplankton to act as a carbon sink. Actually, it should be you effectively boost or augment fertilizing the oceans, okay? And this carbon sink term, that refers to the easiest way to think about that is like the story you did a few weeks ago about the world's largest carbon dioxide capture and bury facility that's going into Wyoming. So that's what they mean by a carbon sink, grabbing carbon out of the air, disposing of it probably underground. Okay. So the researchers at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory reviewed 123 published studies to find numerous non-toxic metal oxygen materials that could safely enhance plankton growth. And the researchers right now are evaluating numerous abundant and easy to create non-toxic metal oxygen materials that could safely, keywords here, easy to create, abundant, and safe. So a safe way to boost phytoplankton growth. The stability, earth abundance, and ease of creation of these materials make them viable options for plankton fertilizers. So they're really onto something here. It's very cool. And as plants, of course, the microscopic phytoplankton, would absorb CO2 from the atmosphere as a result of good old photosynthesis. Remember, everybody, your trees and so forth, they're capturing carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. So this is why the plankton, being billions upon billions of these little guys out there in the oceans, could really help out with this carbon dioxide capture. They're already doing it, but let's, give them a boost. So then here's the fun part. I thought this was interesting. Then as the phytoplankton die, they would sink deep into the ocean, taking the carbon dioxide they absorbed with them in their bodies or in their form, effectively removing CO2 from the atmosphere for thousands of years. And you know what, Ben? I'm going to soapbox for a second here.
Yeah.
One of the things I started to think about, and it was sort of inspired by my plug-in hybrid car, where I call it the best of both worlds. For 40 some odd miles every day, I can get pure EV, and most of the time I'm not driving more than that in a day anyway.
Right.
But if I'm in a pinch, it goes into hybrid mode, and I can take advantage of the gasoline hybrid combination, right? And I started to think, what if the world's technology community, scientists and so forth, if we could achieve a point where we can capture as much carbon dioxide as we put out, or possibly capture more than we're putting out, well, we could still go on using fossil fuels, because so much of the world's infrastructure is based on that. Look what's happening in the Ukraine, where they're being denied their gas and so forth. Oh my gosh. So wouldn't it be interesting if we could have possibly achieved that miracle world where you could have your cake and eat it too? You could capture enough carbon dioxide, dispose of it properly, or make other byproducts with it, so that you could still have, for parts of the world that just simply need more time to give up the addiction to fossil fuels. I don't know, something to think about.
And there are, really seemingly like miracle technologies out there that they are working on. There's, of course, kind of net positive energy with the what do you call those things, Ralph? They have like the coil of plasma, and it generates more electricity than it takes to kind of do.
Like a fusion.
The tokamak reactors. Reactor, which is fusion. Yes, fusion reactors have the potential of actually generating more energy than you put in. So then you can think about, everything that we do up until today. You are, essentially using gas or coal or whatever to generate, to generate electricity that way. Ralph, imagine that you could have more electricity than you put in, and by that you're able to, run these kinds of projects and experiments where you're pulling, things out of the atmosphere, and you're really trying to, solve a lot of these problems. Yeah. Ralph, it's possible, and we're going to get there, of course, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What is the world going to look like at that point? Who knows?
Yeah.
But
who knows?
There are solutions, and I think that's the fun part of what we talk about here every Friday is there are solutions. We just have to figure out the best ones and kind of get there.
Well, yeah, and it has to do an awful lot with economic, political, et cetera, the will to do it, right? It's sort of like the Second World War. When we entered into the war, our nation's industrial military complex just went into hyperdrive. Yeah. And so if you had that kind of effort, though, to tackle this problem, and we're making progress. I mean, it's not that we aren't, but just imagine if the entire world, well, here's my fantasy. The entire world run by a board of ingenious scientists. Get the politicians out of the way, put the scientists in control, stop this foolishness about, well, my country and your country. Get rid of all this and just say, how do we save humankind? How do we do this? And let's get together. And if we have the technology, right? That's your point, and I agree.
It's always, it's always very interesting that, we talk about a lot of smart people who are very collaborative. The academic space is very international, very inter-organization, universities work with universities,
sharing,
countries with countries. But at the same time, you then look at politics that I'm sure everyone does day to day, and it's very much the opposite. Humans are humans, and they're very basic in their needs. So what I'm kind of saying with this is that Ralph, there is that possibility. And to use kind of a buzzword, AI really does have a place here, because instead of having, a board of super geniuses like you were talking about, you could have one system that you can feed in enough information, and hopefully the geniuses are the ones picking what information goes in there, and kind of train it accurately. And then, hey, maybe we have some kind of program or AI that can tell us, this technology is going to work. We should do this. This is what's going to reverse global war. Once again, there are solutions. It's just the best way to get there. Hopefully, we do it faster than basic human, kind of urges kind of take us. But
yes, well, yeah,
story number one is go for it.
No, I was going to say conquering human tribalism.
Absolutely.
You hear that term a lot.
Absolutely. And story number one is actually a lot of fun, because once again,
yes,
you think about these big plans, and you talked about the one a couple of weeks ago in Wyoming that's going to have these big semis that suck CO2 out of the air and sequester it under the ground. This one is even more fun because it's relying on almost the smallest organisms in the ocean to solve one of the largest problems in the world. That's always a fun dichotomy to me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So there, ladies and gentlemen, story number one. Story number two, we're going small again, but this one hits a little bit closer at home because, ladies and gentlemen, this might be coming to a bandage near you. So story number two.
Yes. So the headline here is new. Micro-thin smart bandage can quickly heal and monitor wounds. And this comes from Popular Science. And I just couldn't resist this. I have a real soft spot in my heart for medical technology stories. It's almost every week we have one at least. So here we go. Researchers at Stanford University have designed a smart bandage capable of monitoring wounds and heal them in real time. And I want to stop for a second. We're talking about a very early stage prototype. Okay, folks? So it's not at your store today.
Right.
The new smart bandage also helps accelerate tissue growth, increase blood flow, and reduce scar severity. Wow, this is like a super bandage, okay? The team's new material will ultimately be only 100 microns thick. Now, to put that into perspective, that would be equivalent to a single layer of latex paint. And I've done a lot of household painting, and I can tell you that's damn thin. Yet, even though it's that thin, it will ultimately, not right now, the prototype is one thing, the end result is another, but the end result will contain a radio antenna, electrical stimulator, biosensors, and other components resting atop a skin-like polymer known as a hydrogel. So the photos that you're looking at right now on the screen are, again, the prototypes, okay? Right. Once applied to a patient's injury, here's the goal. Once applied to a patient's injury, the smart bandage monitors temperature and other biometric readings and then transmits that data to a smartphone app, either the person who's wearing the bandage or the medical team that's serving them or whatever the case may be. And if the wound is found to be healing too slowly, or an infection is detected. That's one of the biggest problems, right? In the world of bandages and ERs and first aid, it's the problem with infection. That's why monitoring temperature is so important. But again, if the wound is found to be healing too slowly or an infection is detected, the smart bandage device emits small electrical stimulations across the wound site to boost tissue growth and reduce inflammation. Isn't that interesting? And here's a little more about this bit about electrical stimulation, because that was all new to me. So electrical stimulation in the medical world, also known as galvanotaxis, and I hope I'm saying that right, has been shown to accelerate a multitude of wound healing processes. Although researchers note there's still a lot to learn regarding its influences, something the smart bandage that the Stanford folks have come up with, something the smart bandage its eventual deployment could help accomplish. In other words, what they're saying is there's a lot of interest in this idea of little electrical charges over a wound to help stimulate tissue growth and healing and so on and so forth. And they're saying that at this time, it's a little up in the air about how to do this, how to manage it, and so forth. And they're saying Stanford's prototype bandage technology could help the whole world understand better this process of applying electrical stimulation for this purpose. So that's kind of cool. And then the Truth in Lending timeout reality check statement. Again, the Stanford team in the article very strongly stresses that this invention is in its early proof of concept stage. And there's a lot of unresolved issues they're looking at involving scalability, cost reduction, and even something like data storage on the product or on the technology. So this is a good example of when we talk about me looking for trends. This is an early little, hello, watch this, keep this in mind. This is in early stages, but someday, to your point, Ben, could absolutely be a miracle transformation and healing surface skin wounds and so forth. So cool stuff.
it reminded me of another article that we did, and I just found it about 2 years ago about a color changing bandage that would change based on bacteria that was present in the wound. So you can imagine something, maybe, of course, mixing them, and you could tell that it's this type of bacteria versus that type of bacteria. And then, of course, the fact that it helps treat, I mean, that's completely new to me. I'm glid that you covered the part about the electrostimulation. This thing is really amazing. But for everyone just listening to the radio portion, this thing does look like a circuit board on a very, instead of the green plastic, it's a very flexible, bendy, almost, obviously a bandage. Ralph, it's, that obviously has to go through a lot of cost reduction. You can't put a circuit board on everyone's bandage, but I'm sure it's also not that expensive, because if you've seen technology nowadays, everything has a sensor in it. So I'm sure that we're far off, but we're not that far off to, something that can really, really help people. So this is very cool and very high tech. So, and so with that one, story number 2, bandages, hopefully hear more about that. It seems like every year, Ralph, we come back to a certain topic and we're like, oh, last year it was at this point. Last year it was at this point.
Yes.
Next year we'll, of course, hit back and, touch back and see what they've got going on. So story number 2, story number 3, and another one of our favorite fields is, of course, robotics and drones and autonomous drones, because it's one thing for, someone to fly a drone, take a picture, or someone to fly a drone and do something that's essentially putting a person where a person can't be, but for a robot to do it autonomously, that's something really revolutionary. So story number 3 goes where no one wants to go anyways.
Yes, that's right. Yes, going where, that's sort of funny. It's like the what was it, the Star Trek theme about going whatever, right?
Where no one's gone before.
Yes, but now it's where nobody wants to go. Folks, what we're talking about, let's do a little setup here. In the world of managing city sewer and water systems, one of the huge problems that they have is, of course, monitoring and repairing underground water and sewer systems. Now, when we think about that, usually what comes to mind are the large pipes, the big underground pipes that may be running down the middle of your street or down the middle of the main, but folks, there's an entire, almost like an artery system of much smaller pipes. Those pipes coming from my home, for example, out to the main feed in the main street, which in turn goes out to even larger, right? Again, think of it like a artery system with big arteries and then tiny little veins, okay? And so what we're talking about here with this headline is new, tiny, autonomous smart robots will soon help monitor and repair hard to access, and I would say small, underground water and sewer pipes. And this is a great robotic story from an outfit called Frontiers. That's plural, Frontiers Science News. I've just gotten to know this outlet, and it's a really cool one, so check it out. And then the pictures will show you what this little guy looks like and shows it in action inside one of the test tubes. But here's the story. Researchers at the University of Leeds in the United Kingdom have developed a tiny robot nicknamed Joey, which is the world's first mini robot that can autonomously inspect nearly impossible to access underground pipes. Yes, you're showing the test sequences, the videos showing the little guy in action.
And I'm glad that they included this series of photos, because my God, I saw the first couple, Ralph, and I did not understand the scale, but seeing this really helps to show the scale of this little guy. It's really cute, actually.
It is a Joey. It's cute. I'd like to have one. Anyway, and to your point about size, measuring only 7.5 centimeters wide, which is about 2.59 inches, the little Joey bot can find its own way through networks of narrow pipes underground to look for damage or leaks and relay images back to human operators. And so along the left and right sides of the little robot's body are very clever 3D printed wheel legs. And that's, you have to see the image to get the idea of why they're saying wheel and legs in one word, with three spokes or legs that propel it over challenging debris obstacles. So that was one of the biggest problems they had to solve, is how do you propel this little guy with, regular wheels wouldn't work, but maybe if we had spokes, but the spokes would be in what pattern and so on and so forth. So they came up with this configuration. Yeah.
So for everyone else, the idea, think about fidget spinners. Essentially, four fidget spinners instead of four wheels.
Yes, that's a very good comparison. I love it. So it's equipped with, and get this little tiny guy has got a heck of a lot of technology. It's equipped with a range of energy efficient sensors that measure its distance to pipe walls in real time on the fly. So it's measuring the distance to pipe walls, junctions, and corners. It also features navigational tools, a microphone. Now that part I'm wondering, who's it going to be talking to down there? That's a little scary. And a camera with spotlights to film faults in the pipe network and then save all these images, or as I understand it, can transmit them, I think, in real time to an operator outside as well. And then in the demonstration, which you've been showing all these wonderful photos where they document the tests they've done, in a demonstration of the Joey robot confirmed that it can autonomously travel through a test network of pipes that included a T-junction, left and right corner, a dead end, 3 straight sections, and a variety of other obstacles. And on average, the little Joey robot managed to explore about 1 meter of pipe network in just over 45 seconds. So this guy's not, racing through. It's not like his little RV car's lickety-split, but you don't want that. You want something that's going to move at a pace that allows it to do really good examinations of the conditions of these pipes. And to test Joey's ability to navigate through muddy or slippery water or sewer pipes, and we all know what the slippery part of the sewer pipe would be all about, yikes, they also added sand and gooey dishwashing liquid to the test pipe network, and the test showed that Joey can move through pipes inclined at a slope or over slippery or muddy sediment at the bottom of pipes. How about that? And now, this part is really cool because there's more. Joey's not alone. The idea ultimately is to have future versions of the Joey robots operating in swarms, with their mobile home base being on a larger, quote-unquote, mother robot that the technologists have nicknamed Kanga, Kanga, which will be equipped with arms and tools for repairs to the pipes. So imagine a swarm of these little guys evaluating a difficult to access, almost impossible to access pipe network, documenting things that need to be fixed, and then deploying this larger robot to go out there and try to do some rudimentary repairs. It's a very interesting concept. I love it. And finally, here's what could help accelerate the wide deployment of the little Joey robots. They're relatively cheap to produce, about $360 each. So just think about the millions of cities, all of the water department people, sewer and water people that this could be so helpful for. If it costs thousands and thousands of dollars each, you'd say, oh, I'd love it, but I can't afford it. But a lot of cities could probably pull off buying a bunch of these guys and deploying them into troubled areas, especially, Ben, here in Portland, we have infrastructure like sewer pipes and other things like this that are 120 years old.
Yeah.
Not all, but in the old original neighborhoods and so forth. And I know for a fact that a lot of people, when they purchase homes in those areas, they're required to replace their sewer lines because they're old lead pipes and all this kind of crazy stuff. And so being able to inspect and clean and maintain these things from a city point of view, maybe not individuals, but you could also imagine future services where they say, hey, we can come out and deploy these little robots at your house for X dollars, do an examination, make sure everything's good if you're having problems, or super plumbers, super high-tech plumbing companies. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities.
Yeah, and I could imagine, having been through the situation, trying to identify where a pipe is leaking or something like that, even in a home, very, very difficult. And Ralph, that's where you were kind of talking about the microphone. It's like, who are you going to talk to down there? I would imagine if you have all the water shut off to a system, and you can then listen for leaks, drips, drains, anything that shouldn't be there. So being able to pick up sound is a big part of that. Relatively cheap, 365. They're not bad. Or I'm sorry, $360 each. Not bad, but I feel like that number really has to come down because you'd be flushing $360 down the toilet every time you do one of these. It's
exactly. They get to come back. You don't lose them.
That's one of the best parts. Very, very cool. And then this idea of conga, I have no idea, how well that's going to work. That'd be a whole different topic.
Yeah, I wondered about that too.
Topic, but still very, very cool. And putting robots down there because right now, I'm sure a lot of people know they have like the cameras on ropes, and they kind of feed the rope through the system and try to do their best that they can. This would hopefully be much, much better. And the fact that it's autonomous, if you got to take a left or a right, that's something that today's cameras really aren't the best at doing. So very, very cool idea. And ladies and gentlemen, a great gift giving guide. So we'll start with story number 3. Story number 4 will continue with that. That's a joke, by the way, because you can't get those. But story number 4, you definitely can get these. And Ralph, I'm glad that you like you said at the beginning, you decided to continue on with this segment because buying toys is hard. And I know so many people in my life have just kind of like looked at each other and been like, we haven't gotten into any new hobbies. What the heck do the cousins on the other side of the family even do? They're like, $20 Amazon gift card, whatever. And you know what? This is something that, at least for kids, you can think a little bit outside the box and give them something that they probably would not have, gotten themselves. So
exactly. Oh yeah. So story 4, continuing on with our idea of holiday gifts for the little geek in your life. This one's from Good Housekeeping. So they have some science and tech toy recommendations. And again, come to the show notes. The link is there. You'll see all 10 of the products that the Good Housekeeping folks took a look at and recommended. So the first one is really cool. Here we go. Scroll down here. Okay. Oh, and of course on my website too, but really just come out and get the show notes. That'll give you the link. So here's Good Housekeeping's best toy winner in this category of science and tech educational toys for this year. It's a product called Snap Circuits SC-100 Junior Electronics Exploration Kit for ages 8 and up. I don't know why they thought they needed to put the SC-100, except that there's a little over 100 projects you can do. Not sure about that. But anyway, Snap Circuits Junior Electronics Exploration Kit. If you Google that, you'll easily find it for ages 8 and up. Really, this is a very clever toy. So kids will get hands-on experience in electricity and circuitry with this kit, which lets them build machines without a soldering iron. That's good, because you can imagine the danger of that these days. And these pieces just snap together. So you build a circuit, or you can build things by snapping modular function pieces together. So the kit can make more than 100 projects, including everything from a photosensor to a light-controlled lamp. But the Good Housekeeping Institute testers really love the flying saucer projects. That's really funny. Nice. So there's a propeller, the little motors and propellers and things like that in this kit. That's really a kick. And Snap Circuits Junior Electronics Exploration Kit is available at Amazon, Walmart, and Wayfair for about $50. But double check the Amazon link for this product, because I think the other day it was significantly less than the $50. Yeah. So it's out there. You can find it. It's really cool. And then, Ben, let's do one more from the Good Housekeeping set. It's called the GEO Safari Junior Talking Kids Microscope talking microscope. I said, oh, okay, that sounds kind of neat. The picture's real cute. And this is an interactive toy that is about science, magnifying animals, plants, and household items times 5. So the magnification level 5 is not great, but it's something.
Yeah.
And with 100 facts, it comes with 100 facts and quizzes and more than 60 colorful slides you can put in underneath the microscope, all of which go in built-in storage containers. And the voice of Bindi Irwin narrates the facts. Isn't she the daughter of, was she the daughter
Steve
of
Irwin.
Crocodile? Yeah. Steve Irwin. Was he Crocodile Dundee?
No. Steve Irwin had the Crocodile Hunter, the TV
Hunter,
show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, right. And so the Australians, right? I think,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
and Bindi is his
Yeah.
daughter that kind of took up the mantle along with his son, and they run the Sanctuary Zoo, and they're also kind of wildlife outreach as well. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I kind of thought I said, oh, that name sounds so familiar, and so on and so forth. Anyway, age group for this is 5 years and up, and also it's available on Amazon, Walmart, and QVC. The price on Amazon, just what was it? Yesterday I checked, was $33.99. So it's it's accessible, not too expensive. But shop around, you might even find a better price. Kind of a clever. You can see if you look at the image, you can see the little tray that pops out with all the pre-made slides that the kids can look at. What I don't know is if the kid can put anything they want under it, or do you have to only use the slides? So, but either way, it's still kind of a neat way to get kids to get engaged with this idea of looking deeper into the world around them.
I would imagine that it still functions as a 5x microscope, but the slides are probably more entertaining than a lot of other things you could probably put under there and just see
Probably,
5 times.
Yeah. Yes.
So because as I can see from the slides, and you can kind of see in the picture, they look like some pictures with some words, some words, and it's all kind of right there along the strip. So they're information packed. The kids will get a lot out of it, and I'm sure. Again, I'm sure it still works as a basic, kind of microscope, but still very, very cool. And again, that was for 5 and up. So that's Ralph, great toys. And like you said, we'll include in the show note a link to your website that will have all of the different all the different toys there listed as well. These lists are always great, and again, lots of different options and lots of different kind of pay thresholds. Not everything's $200, $300. Because who wants to give a 5-year-old a $300 gadget? Some of these are, like you said, 30, 40, 20. Yeah, they're all over. So very affordable. And Ralph, I want to thank you for coming onto the program and sharing these with us. It's always a lot of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, every Friday, Ralph Bond here, and of course over at KAX Portland, Oregon, he has his segment as a tech insider. Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.